Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Gerry Hamilton and CJ Vogel. Time for another edition of the Recruiting Breakdown. I want to thank our sponsor for every edition of the Recruiting Breakdown. That's Texas alum Mark Saunders. Gerry will tell you a little bit more about Mark Saunders here in just a moment. But right now, guys, big month of June on tap on 40 acres. This is kind of what, Gerry, this is what we've all been waiting for, what everything's been trending towards is this official visit month in June.
Yeah, it is. Look, so the Texas staff, those guys, Sark's obviously in Destin at the Sandestin at the SEC spring meetings. Texas assistant coaches have a couple of days off here to start the week, Monday, Tuesday, obviously Memorial Day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, get back in. I believe a lot of those guys get back in Thursday or Friday morning. So starting the week off, finishing up the month of May with a few days off after being on the road for most of May and now getting ready for June. The schedule is there may be some unofficial visitors trickle through on some days. I want to be upfront about that and clear about that. But your key dates to know is June 5th for Elite Camp. Then you have OV first weekend, June 6th through 8th. Then you have Elite Camp, June 12th. Then you have OVs the 13th through 15th. And then you have final OV weekend the 20th through 22nd. One official visitor, Valden Sohn, the defensive lineman out of Sweden. It's at Blue Ridge School in Virginia. He will make his OV the 22nd, 23rd, right into the dead period. So, but majority, he's the only one that won't be 20th through 22nd. He'll come in 22nd, 23rd until the dead period. So that's what the month looks like. So it's going to be a really quick moving, fast moving month, a huge month for recruiting because this is going to decide where Texas's class is at headed into the season.
CJ, real quick, and Gerry, feel free to chime in, but it seems like camps used to be a big deal. That would be when you got a lot of your unofficial visitors on campus, but Texas is already in a place where obviously you're doing summer OVs for the 26 recruits, and even the 27s, a good number of their tippy-top guys got on campus during spring ball for unofficial visits. CJ, just doesn't seem like the camps are nearly as big a deal as they once were.
Yeah, there's still value there, right? It was Nicholas Robertson last year who really impressed the coaching staff, especially with the bracer, a full-on cast on his wrist, and that was where Texas offered him. Obviously, now in the 26 class, you see quarterbacks are a big deal in these camps as well. It was when Texas went out and offered Brady Edmonds and Peyton Houston last year as well on June 1st. So there's a lot of stake riding in the quarterbacks, more so maybe than anything else. And I think for the interior guys, right, the trenches, the offensive linemen, the defensive linemen, how are you moving? How are you carrying your weight? It's just another opportunity for the staff to go out and see how these guys compete. And right now there's a good group of guys coming in to Texas, whether it be for a visit or to camp specifically on that 27 offensive line. Hudson White Knight out of Dripping Springs, Tristan Dare out of South Lake Carroll, Kennedy Brown out of the Houston area. Pretty solid group of offensive linemen already coming in. And look, we've talked about it already with these big visit weekends. Kyle Flood likes to stack them up, get his guys in when he can. That first week of June looking like it'll be another opportunity for the 27 offensive linemen to kind of pick their spots in this pecking order for the Texas big board.
And to CJ's point, I think obviously quarterback takes center stage because the last 2 years, KJ Lacey committed shortly after a day of Elite Camp. And Diabell, that one strung out a little bit, but everybody started to hear that Texas was in a pretty good position with Diabell coming out of the Elite Camp. So will Texas make the push to start that 20 or get that 27 class quarterback on the board in early June? We're going to find out in a matter of days.
Yeah.
Gerry, before we get into more on this week's edition of the Recruiting Breakdown, let everybody know about our wonderful sponsor here on the Recruiting Breakdown each and every week, and that's Texas alum Mark Saunders.
Yeah, time to tell you about that Texas alum Mark Saunders. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one place that protects it all? Well, many on Texas football family members have figured this out, and they've called Mark Saunders because he protects everything from your home, car, boat, to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. He serves the entire Austin and Round Rock area and the entire state of Texas. That means he's the only insurance agent you'll need. Again, everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. Call Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders' office today, 512-218-8571. The On Texas Football Guarantee part of the read. We guarantee you'll be in great hands with Mark Saunders.
No doubt, especially Gerry, it's summertime. Everybody's using their boats and their ATVs
Yes.
and their RVs. And those of you unfortunate enough to be doing the RV vacation as a family. So whatever it is, again, we want to thank Mark Saunders for sponsoring the Recruiting Breakdown as always. Gerry, I'll start with you. Two topics I want to hit today. It's going to kind of set the table for the month of June. I want to look at three prospects Texas is trending for.
Mm-hmm.
This is where, again, Texas just trending in the right direction. Gerry, who are your three?
Well, John Turntine is one. And I think, CJ's probably, we differentiate our list so we don't all say the same guys. And I do think Texas is trending for multiple guys, but there's work to be done. But Turntine's one, there's a lot of connections to Austin with a couple of his older sisters. He's been to Austin more than any other school, Texas more than any other school. Kyle Flood's been on him a long time. I think the academic football fit is there. And I also want to say these aren't guarantees, right? There's a lot of meat left on the bone in recruiting this month because there's some real NIL conversations, how the dominoes could fall. But I think Texas is trending in the right direction and has been with John Turntine. If you put a second one, for me, would be KJ Edwards, the running back out of Carthage. Look, he had a great visit to Colorado. Marshall Faulk and Dion made their pitch. But I think this one's now turned to the SEC. OVs are LSU, Alabama, A&M, and then Texas. Him moving Texas from June 20th to June 6th to June 20th, pretty good sign for Texas. Obviously, Texas has made him a priority running back in the state of Texas. And I think Texas is trending pretty well with KJ Edwards headed into these June official visits. And then my third one's Kendall Gerville, the defensive lineman from Fort Myers. And maybe it's because I was just down there. Maybe it's because he had a great OV, unofficial visit in April. I think you combine all that. Kenny Baker was down there twice in May with Kenodo Hudson. I think Texas is trending over Georgia right now and Florida for Kendall Gerville. And I do think he'll play in the SEC. Again, all these guys, there's a long way to go in these recruitments. There's some huge official visits. But, Jeff, I think those are three guys for me right now that I feel comfortable with where Texas is at. And we'll see what happens the whole month of June.
Gerry, real quick before CJ gives his three, on KJ Edwards, I've been asked this on a couple of live streams. When a school gets the last visit, I tend to think it's a case-by-case basis. But in the case of KJ Edwards, you've got an in-state guy coming from a program like Carthage, where we know Scott Surratt's going to do what he can to help his guys make the best decisions for them. I feel like in the case of KJ Edwards, Texas getting the last visit is a big deal.
Especially because they shifted that visit date, right? I mean, it was the 6th through 8th, and then it shifted to June 20th through 22nd. And I know CJ would agree with this. We talked about that's a pretty good sign for Texas.
Yeah.
Because that means Texas is likely in control. Because it's not like KJ Edwards is going to make a decision on June 12th. He's announced August 4th as his decision date. So he already has this planned out into his announcement date before his senior season begins. So Texas in control of a recruitment when they can start shifting official visit dates and get the last visit, seeing kind of what was going on with the recruitment with LSU and Alabama. A&M was already on the visit list making plays there. Texas is controlling those official visit dates.
All right, CJ. So Gerry's got John Turntine, Kendall Gerville, and KJ Edwards. Who are your three you feel Texas is trending in the right direction with?
Yeah, I think I'll go out east, start at Cornelius, North Carolina, Huff High School. That's Samari Matthews, the cornerback. And look, some news here. We just found out, reported elsewhere that Samari Matthews just bumped Clemson out of his official visit schedule for Miami. And what did we originally think out of the spring unofficials is this would be a Texas, Florida State, Clemson battle. Well, Clemson no longer in the race, add Miami to it. Texas remains a constant. And coming off of that unofficial to Texas, where he sat around in Austin with he and his family for 3 nights, saw 2 practices, really got to see the city, the campus, the environment around Texas. I have a reason to think Texas is a team to beat in this recruitment right now. That's one for me. And then I'll stay in state for Felix Ojo. Gerry, you had John Turntine. I'll go with Felix Ojo. That recruitment, really this weekend is when it starts for me.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Michigan, back-to-back official visit weekends. He'll be into Texas June 13th, and then Oklahoma to wrap things up June 20th. I really look at Ohio State, Michigan, and Texas as the 3 true contenders here. Oklahoma kind of on the outs looking in. But the way that he talked about being recruited by Steve Sarkisian and Kyle Flood, of course, I keep talking about that franchise player quote, but But on top of that, he's expected to come in and be hosted by Trevor Goosby for his official visit. He's talked about his relationship with DJ Campbell already from that DFW area. He's got a lot of ties to Texas. He's been down plenty. Now Texas is certainly ramping up the heat. And I was going to go with Jalen Lott. I think that one's pretty close for my third one. Instead, I'll stay in state again, just a little bit south. I'll go down to Matey Creek for Kosi Okpala. Look, when Gerry, I know that alarm bells started going off for us in the spring when he made it back to campus for back-to-back weekends for Texas' spring practices. I still think Texas is in a good shape for him. And with this linebacking board right now, you go down the list of, okay, who's Texas pushing on? Who could be a commitment right now? He's one that fits both bills, and I think Texas is very much in the race for him. It's all about how does that official visit weekend go for the Longhorns, but I think the Longhorns are in great shape going into it.
By the way, the Samari Matthews news is significant because a week and a half ago, what we were hearing was Texas was a slight favorite over Clemson. Well, Clemson has 4 defensive back commitments, 2 safeties, 2 corners, one of those being Marcel Gibson, the younger brother of the Lancaster corner who signed with Texas or signed with Clemson 2 years ago now. That's significant because the college coaches that were in that recruitment were thinking Texas, Clemson, South Carolina, Florida State in that order. Well, Clemson's been bumped from Miami. So that's a sign that Texas is doing very well in this recruitment right now.
Gerry, you mentioned John Turntime. CJ, you had Felix Ojo. I think it's worth repeating. I was a senior in high school when Mike Williams went in the first round. Guys, I've never covered recruiting when Texas has had a run of putting offensive linemen in the NFL as draft picks. I only say that because we're truly, as far as I've seen, Gerry, we're in uncharted territory for what Kyle Flood's doing right now.
Yeah, and look, the tough thing for Kyle Flood in this cycle, and we've said this before, this is a tough thing. I think he could get for sure 6 kids in this class. But the way the dominoes fall, or he has to turn somebody away if they don't decide they're only taking 5, there's some really good players that I think would go to Texas that may just not have a spot. I think that's how good a position Texas is at in offensive line recruiting. And it could be 2 tackles commit before mid-July, and that pushes somebody to another school that might have been leaning to Texas. So how these dominoes fall is going to be so interesting. But the one thing is about this offensive line with Kyle Flood is all 10 of these guys that are making official visits are all really talented players. I mean, you just look at their visit list. They're all national. I mean, even Grayson McHugh, the most recent offer, who's scheduled to come into June 20th. We'll see if he ever makes that visit. It's Notre Dame and Penn State for a guy out of Pennsylvania, out of the Philly area. That shows you where Texas is at from an offensive line recruiting standpoint under Kyle Flood, that they can go in mid-May and offer one of the top offensive tackles up on the Upper East Coast, who has Notre Dame and Penn State as his top 2, and he immediately starts bumping schools and puts Texas third as his third official visit and final 3. That alone tells you where Texas is at on offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
We'll move on to our other topic here shortly, and Gerry's got one more time to tell you guys about Mark Saunders. But CJ, you're working the phones while we're recording. Got confirmation of a big-time visitor coming to campus on June 1st.
Yeah, that will be 2027 quarterback Malachi Ziegler. He will camp with the Longhorns in the first week of June, of course, out of Benton, Louisiana. Ziegler was previously down in the Austin area for the Elite 11 earlier this spring. He mentioned at the time that a possible visit to Texas was in the works at the time. He didn't commit to it. Of course, still kind of waiting to see where Texas would evaluate him, or how that communication would continue to improve throughout the upcoming months. And here we are. He just confirmed, actually, as we started recording, that he will be on campus June 1st for the Texas Longhorns to visit A.J. Milwee, Steve Sarkisian. He has 19 offers right now, 6'2" and a half, also plays baseball and basketball, big-time athlete. Really impressive arm, Gerry and Jeff, that I was able to see down in South Austin for the Elite 11. But that's just one more name to keep an eye on for that 27 quarterback prospect list. Of course, we've talked about it, Gerry. You mentioned it. June is really where you get to see that next cycle of quarterback get moving. This will be one more opportunity before Texas essentially makes it known on which direction they'll be going with that 27 quarterback position.
Yeah, and big offers for him in May. He had FSU, he had Tennessee, he had Miami, obviously all in May. It made some unofficial visits there in April and March, Notre Dame, Michigan. He made the tour, CJ, USC, Arkansas, Texas. So he's made the tour. But a guy in May, when the college coaches went out and were evaluating these quarterbacks in the class, he picked up some key offers because he's not a guy that blows you away from a stat sheet standpoint, but he is in person a guy that's very impressive to some of the top quarterback coaches in the country.
June is definitely quarterback watch for us on the 40 acres when it comes to camp season. Gerry, again, we mentioned it earlier. It's summertime. People got being out and about, taking vacations, getting out on the lake. If you've got something that has four wheels or a motor, you want to get it insured, tell them why they need to do it with Texas alum Mark Saunders.
Well, Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders, he serves the Austin and Round Rock area, the entire state of Texas. That means he's the only insurance agent you'll need. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, ATV, that boat, very important this summer, as Jeff said. Call Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders' office today at 512-218-8571. Do what so many other On Texas football community members have done the last couple of years. That's give Texas alum Mark Saunders and his office a call today. He has over 35 years of experience. That's who I'll trust with all my insurance needs. 512-218-8571.
Our last topic on this week's show, CJ, I actually want to start with you on this one. We're going to look at three prospects. You guys each have three prospects. Texas has work to do on. Now, I want to say this doesn't mean Texas is way behind or, they're playing an extreme case of catch up. It's just these are going to be, ink is dry type recruitments for guys. CJ, who are your three guys where you feel like, hey, Texas needs to really keep plugging away?
Yeah, the first one is one that I just recently saw down in Louisiana, Jabari Mack, currently committed to LSU. It makes obvious sense that Texas still has work to do there, but it's not as far out as one might think, right? A Louisiana kid committed to LSU. Normally you think that one's kind of battened down and sealed. Well, he's still taking two official visits, one to Texas, one to LSU. So a two-team race towards the finish line. Chris Jackson obviously was down in Destrehan to see him for his spring game as well. So Texas in the mix there, still some work to do. The next one will go all the way out west, Devon Benjamin. And it's really about when those official visits are announced by him. We believe he will be coming in June 6th to visit Texas. Texas, and Gerry, you and I both heard that he kind of blew away the coaching staff and some of the player personnel department people on his unofficial to Texas in early May. So Texas likes Devon Benjamin a lot. Now it's about getting him back to campus, continuing to get that ball moving towards a possible commitment later on in the calendar year. But Devon Benjamin, one of my favorite prospects in this class, that's one Texas is going all in for. And look, back to the other side of the coast, up in the Northeast, Luke Wafel, up in the Hun School of New Jersey. Edge rusher, look, Penn State in the mix there. Of course, his brother plays there. He transferred from Michigan to Penn State recently, closer to home. However, and Gerry, we mentioned this over the weekend, he grew up with some Texas memorabilia, some Texas gear in his bedroom, made it to campus several times on his own dime as well. This is one that I think Texas would really like to have in the class. And I go back real quick. I go back to his last visit to Texas. He was one of the lone visitors for midweek of unofficial. He got to see everything, got that red carpet treatment as well. Now it's about doing that on a much larger scale with the official visit and see if Texas can get some real headway going in that recruitment.
Gerry, let's go ahead and get your three out of the way. Where are you going with this as far as guys that Texas has some work to do with?
Yeah, so I'm going to start in St. Thomas Aquinas. Justice Fitzpatrick, they had a great multi-day unofficial visit in April. Texas has got that official visit date changed to June 20th through 22nd. Last visit, that's what Fitzpatrick told me at STA about a week ago. But with that being said, there's a lot of family connections to Kirby Smart and Dan Schumann at Georgia because they were part of the recruitment of Mika Fitzpatrick at Alabama. Then Kirby took the Georgia job. Dan Schumann was a big key in the development of Mika Fitzpatrick before going to Georgia. But the families had such long-standing ties with them. Then Miami's in the mix. Alabama's in the mix, obviously. So that is one Texas is doing well. Mark Orfe was at his spring game, made 2 trips down there, did the in-home visits, did all of it. Texas is going to get an official visit in June, but I still think there's work to do there because of all the ties around the Georgia program due to Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann with the Fitzpatrick family. Bryce Perry Wright in Buford's another one. Texas was by a couple times in May, did the in-home visits. He made an unofficial visit, had a great visit in April from what On Texas Football was told. But still, when we've reached out to people, what are the schools being associated first and second with Bryce Perry Wright's recruitment? It's been Clemson and it's been Texas A&M. And so Texas feels like they have a legitimate shot there, but there's still work to do in this recruitment. He's already visited Auburn, going to make an unofficial visit to Miami as well. But if this thing comes down to the Clemson, Texas A&M, Texas is coming a little bit from behind, I feel like, headed into the June official visits. That doesn't mean Texas can't win it. They've won many where they're coming from behind. But again, talking to sources, some in the college ranks, the schools mentioned first and second have been Clemson and Texas A&M with Bryce Perry Wright. Then third, Damari Simeon. Two D linemen in New Jersey. Very odd, by the way, in the Garden State. But Damari Simeon, for a long time, has been under the radar. But he's one of the top defensive linemen in the country in this 26 class. Texas got him on campus in April. It was a great unofficial visit. Immediately scheduled a June 13th OV. Texas is battling the big boys in the Midwest and Northeast on this one. It's Ohio State, last visit June 20th, Michigan, May 30th through June 1st, and Penn State the 6th through 8th. So that is a recruitment that even though they had a great visit and Texas loves Damari Simeon, there's still work to be done there because you don't have to beat just one Big Ten power. You have to beat the 3 Big Ten powers for a defensive lineman out of New Jersey, but he is one of the best in the country. Don't look at the rankings. Look at the official visits with Damari Simeon.
All right. June is going to be fun. This is our last recruiting breakdown in the month of May. So when next time we meet, gentlemen, it'll be June. It'll be off and running. And before you know it, we'll be talking about Gerry getting ready for some 4th of July commitments. I know CJ loves the July 4th verbal commitments.
The kids don't care about the media, that's for sure.
No, that'll be some CJ hat throwing with multiple July. So I would just advise recruits, let's keep the July 4th verbals to a minimum if possible. But, you guys do what you want to do. CJ, Gerry, thank you guys for the insight and the intel as always. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, we keep you updated on the On Texas Football YouTube channel and on our podcast as much as possible. But you want up to the second information on what's going on the recruiting trail, get it at ontexasfootball.com, where right now, we'll sign you up. Sign up for a 1-year membership using the promo code OTFOG. That's OTFOG. 1 year access at ontexasfootball.com for $49.95. Again, that's the promo code OTFOG. Get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $49.95. And don't forget, if you're not subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe, like this video, and stay locked into the channel. Not just throughout the month of June, but all year round. Recruiting never stops for Texas. It never stops for the On Texas Football staff. For Gerry Hamilton, for CJ Vogel, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for tuning into this edition of the Recruiting Breakdown. And until next time, hook 'em.